Long before the gods descended to the mortal world, the dungeon came into existence. No one knows its origin, only that it has always been there, stretching deep beneath the earth like a gateway to hell. Even now, its depths remain a mystery, with some floors so vast they surpass entire cities above. Long ago, the dungeon made a promise to a certain someone, and now, after ages have passed, the hero Argonaut has been reborn. So the way we will tackle this is that after venturing through a couple of floors in the dungeon, I'll stop to give some lore regarding the information we have from the guild and from different sources about the dungeon. I'll also specify what level of adventurers can go to which floor and what their status should be. Okay, let's begin. After the gods descended into the mortal world, most of them formed familias, groups of adventurers tasked with exploring and conquering the dungeon. One god, however, took on the responsibility of establishing the guild, an organization dedicated to guiding adventurers on how to navigate the dungeon safely. Any discoveries made within the dungeon, such as maps and items, can be sold to the guild, which then uses this information to aid new adventure. Following their descent, the gods also built Babel atop the dungeon to prevent monsters from emerging onto the surface. As we will see, some monsters from the deeper floors develop a longing for the surface. To enter the dungeon, adventurers must first visit the guild and gain access to the underground levels of Babel. On the first floor of the dungeon, you will encounter kobolds, monsters with dog-like heads. On the same floor, you can also find goblins, a staple of nearly every fantasy story. From floors 2 to 4, adventurers may encounter dungeon lizards. These creatures attack by leaping at their targets from the walls. In the first chapters of the story, we see Bel Cranel fighting against these monsters. This happens right after he receives his Falma, so his stats are still low. Newbie adventurers typically stop at this point until their status is updated. Once they become strong enough, a level 1 adventurer can advance to the 6th floor, where they are likely to encounter war shadows, monsters said to have arms sharper than knives. This floor is also home to frog shooters. From the 7th floor up to the 9th, adventurers will face killer ants alongside war shadows. These creatures are known as newbie killers due to the high number of adventurers they have slain. Killer ants usually attack in groups. Up to this point, a level 1 adventurer with high enough stats and a sufficient amount of luck can manage to reach this floor. However, from floor 10 onward, a level 2 adventurer is required. On floor 10, adventurers encounter needle rabbits, rabbit-like monsters with a single horn on their heads, as they are known for their devastating punch impact. Before we proceed, let's discuss how the guild categorizes the dungeon. It is divided into 3 sections: upper floors, middle floors, deep floors. The deeper one ventures, the stronger the monsters become. Typically, the guild does not permit low-level adventurers to enter floors beyond their capabilities. However, certain circumstances may force someone to descend into the depths despite the danger. On floor 12, adventurers will also encounter Almirajs, rabbit-like monsters that, when grouped together, pose a threat equivalent to a level 2 adventurer. On floor 12, the primary monster encountered is the Silverback, a large, white-furred monkey-like creature. It is one of the tallest monsters in the upper floors and poses a significant threat to adventurers. On floor 13, adventurers face the Hard-Armored, a monster with the highest defense among those in the upper floors. While it becomes easy to defeat once its armor is broken, actually destroying the armor is extremely difficult. Each type of monster typically has a specific weakness to certain attacks, while some can even deflect particular attack type. For example, on floor 14, adventurers encounter the Crystal Mantis, a creature with a body made of crystal, making it highly resistant to magic. On floor 15, adventurers face the Hound. Up until this point, most monsters relied purely on physical attacks, but the Hound is different. It can breathe fire from its mouth, making it a far more dangerous opponent. From floors 15 to 17, adventurers will encounter Minotaurs, humanoid monsters with the heads of bulls. They are considered some of the strongest monsters in the middle floors. Now, back to the dungeon itself. It seems to harbor hatred toward the gods in heaven and does not allow a god to venture into it. If a god enters the dungeon, a black monster will be born, a stronger version of the monsters already present. We see this happen when the black Goliath is born in response to Hestia entering the dungeon. This monster was born on floor 18. The bugbear from floor 19 is said to be on par with a Minotaur in terms of strength, but possesses greater agility. From floors 19 to 24, adventurers encounter Lizardman and Wyver. A Lizardman is a humanoid lizard monster with red scales, while a Weaver is a humanoid female dragon with a red gemstone on its forehead. Now is a good time to discuss the Xenos, monsters that appear to be the reincarnation of creatures that have lived before. They possess intelligence and can speak the human language, raising important philosophical questions about the nature of the dungeon. Some believe that the Xenos may be humans who once lived on the surface and, after dying, were reborn within the dungeon. Others speculate they might be the reincarnation of adventurers who perished inside the dungeon. But what is certain for now is that once a monster has died several times at the hands of adventurers, it gets reincarnated as a Xenos. The Xenos live in private rooms inside the dungeon, and they refer to the dungeon as their mother. One such private room exists on floor 20. The most important Xenos is Asterus. He is the reincarnation of the Minotaur that had a history with Bel. Remembering how Bel fought him one-on-one without allowing anyone to interfere, the Minotaur developed a deep respect for him. Now, as Asterus, he sees himself as Bel's rival. It is estimated that Asterus may be as powerful as a level 7 adventurer. One of the greatest mysteries is the experimentation seemingly conducted by the dungeon itself. Throughout various locations within the dungeon, we witness abnormal activities that hint at a deeper, possibly intentional process. We know that the dungeon gives birth to monsters, almost as if it were their mother. But with the Xenos, we've seen something even stranger. They are learning. It's as if the dungeon is actively teaching its children how to speak, fight, and evolve. Considering that the dungeon has existed far longer than the gods' descent, this raises a chilling possibility. Has the dungeon been experimenting all this time? Is it trying to create a specific kind of monster? On floor 25, the Moss Youth appears, a highly intelligent monster that roams the floor. From this point onward, every monster encountered can be categorized as very strong. Among them, raider fish are particularly dangerous, capable of jumping and attacking at immense speed. One of the most important arcs in the story of dungeon exploration is the encounter with the Moss Huge. For the first time, we see a monster exhibiting intelligence, forming plans on how and when to attack, and demonstrating a clear understanding of retreating when necessary. It actively hunted other monsters, killing them and consuming their magic stones to grow stronger and evolve. When the gods descended to the mortal world, they were stripped of their divine powers, known as the Arcanum. If a god were to use their powers, the dungeon would be forced to break its promise, which is why Arano strictly forbids the gods from doing so. Monsters are born from the ceilings and walls of the dungeon, leading some to believe that the dungeon itself acts as a womb. If this is true, then the mother of all monsters must exist somewhere in the world, and many speculate that she resides in the lower floors of the dungeon. Now, we know that the dungeon itself can be categorized as the mother, but there has to be a manifestation of her will lurking somewhere within the dungeon. Now, back to the floors. The 25th through 27th floors are known as the Water City. There is a waterfall that extends from the 25th floor up to the 27th floor, and the dungeon seems to treat these 3 floors as one. On these floors, there is a monster called the Amphisbaena, and a hidden Xenos village exists on the 27th floor. The 28th floor is a safety point. From this floor up to the 36th, we primarily encounter forests and dinosaurs. It was on the 30th floor that the Juggernaut first appeared, and it was here that the Astraea Familia met their end, leaving only Ryuu behind. During Bel's attempt to save Ryuu, they both fell deeper into the dungeon and found themselves on the 37th floor. The 37th floor, known as the White Palace, is a vast labyrinth with white walls and ceilings. It is home to the monster Rex, Udaeus, estimated to be on par with a level 6 adventurer. It is capable of summoning a massive black sword. This floor contained a coliseum, an experimental site created by the dungeon to create the Xenos. This place teems with monsters. As adventurers delve deeper into the dungeon, the intelligence of monsters increases. Unlike those from the upper floors, these creatures possess an unusual longing for the surface, as if reaching it would grant them a new existence. In fact, around 1,000 years ago, 3 monsters managed to escape the dungeon: the Behemoth, the Leviathon, and the Black Dragon. We know that for an adventurer to level up, they must raise their stats sufficiently and achieve a significant feat. It is said that for a level 5 adventurer to reach level 6, they must challenge Udaeus alone, and for a level 7 adventurer to reach level 8, they must defeat Balor by themselves. Balor is the monster Rex of floor 49. On floor 51, adventurers encounter the Virga, a creature that can shoot dissolving water. If killed, it explodes, making it extremely dangerous to engage in direct combat. From floor 52 up to floor 58, adventurers encounter Valgnag dragons, a massive red dragon that can grow up to 10 meters tall when standing on both legs. Once you set foot inside these floors, you most likely will be detected. They can breathe fire powerful enough to blast through layers of rock. The blast can extend for multiple floors, meaning that one can fire a blast from the 58th floor and reach the 52nd floor. Floor 59 is significant because the guild has officially designated it as the deepest known floor. No Familia has ever reached beyond this point. Among the threats on this floor is the Titan Alm, a massive plant monster. Floor 59, being the deepest that adventurers reached, was all a lie, and the Hera and Zeus Familias managed to venture into the 71st floor. These 2 Familias also took on the responsibility of tackling the 3 great quests. Each of these quests involved slaying a monster that had long ago escaped from the dungeon: the Behemoth, the Leviathan, and the one-eyed Black Dragon. They successfully completed 2 of these 3 quests. However, the Black Dragon still roams the world to this day, while the exact floors these monsters once inhabited remain unknown. It is speculated that they roamed at least as deep as floor 62. The Zeus and the Hera Familias were mostly wiped out during their mission to slay the final monster of the 3 great quests, the one-eyed Black Dragon. To this day, only one person has ever managed to injure this creature. Albert Waldstein, who lived over 1,000 years ago, before the gods had descended to the mortal world. During his battle with the dragon, Albert succeeded in taking one of its eyes.